In your wildest dreams, you won't imagine something like this is possible within the human form. There have been many yogis in the past who still are in some ways. Whenever they feel it's necessary, they are capable of recreating their old bodies. As you have an internet, there is a yogi plate. If you are willing, you will see Gautama, the Buddha is not 2,500 years ago, he's just today. He is alive today as he was 2,500 years ago. So variety of mystics, yogis, they lived in Himalayas, they chose it as their abode. So when they live there, they naturally leave a certain dimension of energy. These are people who never even spoke to anybody, no teaching, no nothing. So their contribution is they just left their energies in a certain way, which cannot be disturbed forever, it's always there. I don't go to Himalayas to meet anybody. At the same time, the mystical dimension of Himalayas preserved there in so many ways. Many, probably no other place in the world. Every part of the world has places where certain people have left certain energies in certain situations around them, which will always be there. But I've traveled everywhere, there isn't another place which has seen as many mystics as Himalayas has witnessed. No other place on the planet. If you're sensitive to it, it's not just a mountain, it's something else. It's not your belief. I'm not talking about believing Himalayas are sacred or whatever. Many yogis and mystics choose never to speak, never to teach, but their longing to share is not any less. So, they will leave their work in a different form. There have been many yogis in the past who still are in some ways. They retain the subtlest part of their body intact and just let it be. Whenever they feel it's necessary, they are capable of recreating their old bodies. This is called as Nirmanakayas. Such people are known as Nirmanakayas who recreate their own body. Gautama, the Buddha, is supposed to be one of the Nirmanakayas. There are many others who recreate their own body as it was then, a youthful body as they liked it. Maybe this is 100 years later, 1,000 years later, whatever number of years, because number of years is not at all the issue. What you call as time is, for this body, one kind of time, for another body, another kind of time, isn't it? See, for your body, 10 years means this much, 20 years means that much, 30 years means this much, 70 years means that much, it's like this. Suppose you take a dog, your 1 year, maybe 15 years for him, in his experience, isn't it? If you take an insect, maybe your 1 day is 50 years for him, because in 2 days he'll be gone. So the experience of time and the way life experiences time is very different. In the life of this planet, 100 years may be just a second, we don't know the calculation, but it is very small, isn't it? So this is not just from human perspective. It is not about comparing everything to our lifetime and coming to it. Even in the perspective of that creature's life, it is so. Maybe not the same way as we calculate, but it's different in its perspective. So once you cross the limitations of the actual physicality and the logical mind, time is not an issue. You will see, once you get into a certain state of experience within you, you sit there If you sit there for 1 hour or 2 hours, it feels like a minute. Time has always been a relative experience. Even in your life, in normal process of life itself, on a particular day you're very happy. 24 hours just passed off like that, isn't it? Another day you're unhappy. 24 hours feels like a year, isn't it? As you become more and more intense in your experience, you will see time goes off like this. So once you have dropped your physical body, the earthy body that you picked up from the planet, now suddenly time is not an issue. What you think as 100 years later is nothing, just a moment later. So maybe just a moment later he came back, but you think he came back 500 years later. In his experience, he just turned around and came back. But in your experience, it's 500 years later. The yogis and others, various types of mystics, always choose mountains as their abode because they want solid material all around them. When they do certain sadhana, when they develop certain energy within themselves, they would like to live in a cocoon of the earth. The only way you can have that cocoon on plains is to dig a hole and go into it, which will cause many problems, which is complicated. So they naturally seek mountains where there will be caves and places to live, which has a cocoon feeling, because they want to conserve their energy in a certain way. Many of them create a whole world of their own in that little cave. For you, it is just a little cave. For him, it's a creation of his own. Because time and space is again conscious mind. For you, it is just this much cave. For him, it's a whole world. So they always chose mountains. Anywhere in the world if you go, spiritual people are always in the mountains. Is it so?
Yes.
Any part of the world, it is so. Because they want the cocoon atmosphere around themselves. So Himalayas, because of its size and its immensity, it is so immense. Being in India, if you don't see Himalayas, you really miss something, you know. Before you're too old and no good for anything, you must visit Himalayas once, you know. It's something that you must see. You don't have to go with any belief or faith or anything. Just the size will make you feel like an ant. The big man that you are in the city, you go stand there, you feel like a crawling creature. You are not a big man anymore. It's so immense. It cannot be described. It's something one has to see and experience. So people went, and Himalayas over a period of time became the home of variety of spiritual processes. No other culture has the kind of variety that this land has seen. When Mark Twain visited India, he particularly went into Himalayas, met many yogis and many mystics. And the comment he made about India is, this is a land where anything that can ever be done, either by man or God, has been done in this place. Probably that's the best compliment India ever received. And Mark Twain is not just an author, his vision and his perception of life is fantastic. So he declared, anything that can ever be done either by man or God has been done here. It is so. In terms of understanding life in its depth, when I say life, I'm not talking about living as life, I'm talking about life as creation. In terms of understanding the life process in its utmost depth, no other culture has ever looked at it the way people here have looked at it, the kind of depth and dimension. Though you're living in India, you're not exposed to these things. If you go into the yogic lore, the incredible things that they've done with life are just… you cannot even logically grasp it to that extent. Just the things that are happening, people who have witnessed the consecration process in the temple, in Coimbatore, what we were doing, and other things that happen in the form of samyama and various wholeness programs and things like that. In your wildest dreams, you won't imagine something like this is possible within the human form. So much has been done, and it has been done in every possible way. Every possible way you can explore human consciousness and the process of creation, it has been done. So variety of mystics, yogis, they lived in Himalayas, they chose it as their abode. So when they live there, they naturally leave a certain dimension of energy. These are people who never even spoke to anybody, no teaching, no nothing. So their contribution is they just left their energies in a certain way, which cannot be disturbed forever, it's always there. So because of this, Himalayas gathered a certain kind of aura, certain parts of Himalayas. Certain parts are touristy, certain parts of Himalayas gathered a very powerful thing about themselves, that it became a very powerful place to be, that spiritual seekers naturally went in that direction. I think we were saying something about Kedar. You should see Kedar. It's just a small temple, it's nothing. There's no deity there, just an outcrop of the rock like this. Oh, it is one of the most powerful points in the world. You don't have to believe anything. Just go sit there, it'll blow you out. If you work upon yourself to improve your receptivity and then go to a place like that, it'll just blow you. Like this, there are many places. If you're open to it, if you're sensitive and receptive to it, whatever these yogis were, all their life's work and their tradition is simply left there in a different form. You can always access it. In that sense, Himalayas is too rich, too saturated. The surrounding areas of Kedar, Yukteswar and other places have witnessed so many beings. See, if you work with your body, if you use your muscle and work, the lifespan of your work is of a certain length, it dies after that. All the billions and billions of people who lived on this planet before you and me came here, where is all their work? All they have left is their reproduction. Beyond that, nothing else is there. If you work with your body, the span of that work is only that much. If you work with your mind, then the span of that work is little more, it extends itself. But if you work with your life energies, that dimension is forever. Even if the planet goes away, that will not go away. As you have an internet, there is a yogic net. If you are willing, you will see Gautama, the Buddha, is not 2500 years ago, he's just today. He is alive today as he was 2500 years ago. Only thing is now, he doesn't have the burden of physical body. The physical body is a restriction. Whatever comes through a physical body, you will have likes and dislikes with it, isn't it? So, once free from the physical process, it becomes even more empowered and effective.